I have these 8 different points. It started out as like 5, and it became 8 different points about overcoming imposter syndrome. Okay, so we're about to go to imposter syndrome. Is that a good topic for you? Do you ever feel like that comes up at all? Sometimes, yeah. Okay, so I'll just go into what I think it is and how to overcome it. Okay, so in my opinion, imposter syndrome is very related to fear, or at least a lack of confidence. And in particular, we can call it a lack of confidence with our delivery that stops us from growing our business, right? So a lot of times I find when I'm working with people, sometimes learning marketing and sales isn't relevant. They're not ready to learn that because there's a lack of confidence in the delivery. And if you have a lack of confidence in this type of services that you're delivering, no amount of marketing and sales can overcome that. You can't make a sale if you don't believe in yourself. It's just pretty fundamental. And so this is one of the very first things that comes up that we have to learn how to overcome. And for me, there's like 8 different parts. There's 8 different ways to overcome it. So I'm just gonna go into those things. And hello, BB, for jumping in. Okay, so is we can call it FOMO, or fear of missing out, right? Fear of missing out is actually very similar to comparison syndrome, right? We kind of look on Facebook, we look on Instagram, we start comparing ourselves to other people, and we think, you know what? Even though I've got something special here, I'm good at what I do, I've got some good things going, I know this modality, blah, 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 I have some success stories. Even though we might have that, we start looking at, oh, but how about Susie? She's doing NLP. And how about Cindy? She's doing hypnosis. And how about Emma? She's doing blah, 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 blah. Maybe I should be doing those things too. And so what I think that we need to overcome this FOMO slash comparison syndrome is just we need blinders, and we need a higher level of discipline of just like avoiding looking at those things, right? I would say that a large amount of success when it comes to online business is actually related to our habits around social media and our ability to be disciplined with how we use our phone in particular, right? I'll give you an example of myself. I've had periods of time, not proud of this, obviously, especially as a former monk, but where I wake up and I look at my phone right away, and before I know it, I'm in an Instagram hole, and the best part of my mind is gone for the day. And I feel like exhausted before the day even starts. I mean, we give ourselves a little break with social media, but we have to admit that it's exhausting. Looking at a social media feed, if we're scrolling on it mindlessly without a purpose, is actually exhausting. It's stimulating, it spreads our attention thin, it spreads us out, and the danger is we might start comparing ourselves. We have something good going. It's like if you have a really good partnership, but you go out and you start looking at all these other people. Like there's no point in doing that. It's actually there isn't a magic trick to overcoming the negative mindset comparison. You just need more discipline. You just need to stop looking. Just be happy with what you have. You have something good. And for me, if I need a reminder in how many good things I have to stop looking at other things and take a break. Because if I'm by myself without any stimuli, I start remembering my special qualities for me. And I'm sure you guys do too. I've had periods of time where my phone breaks or it doesn't work anymore for like 3 days. And I launch a beautiful project that I never would have done otherwise because I would have been too distracted, right? If I spend time in nature by myself without any distractions, I just naturally start finding my way to good habits again. Okay. And so I feel this relates to imposter syndrome because you can cut the comparison and the FOMO just by staying in your lane and being happy with what you have and just not looking around. And it's just a mental discipline to learn how to do that. Okay. So that's the first point. We'll come back to some of the social media habits on point number 6. Number two is just the fear of the unknown, Now, this one I think is the lightest one. This one's the one that's the most easy to overcome, the very lightest. We just have questions. We're like, we want to do something new that we've never done before. We have a mind full of unanswered questions. Questions about this, about that. How's it going to look? How's it going to be? What about this? What about that? And that's okay. There's really nothing you have to do to overcome that. You just have to be okay with having questions and moving forward despite questions. I find that this is a part of imposter syndrome, simply like looking at the unknown thing that you're moving towards and being like, I don't know everything there is to know about it, and that's okay. And you just accept that you don't know and you move on anyway. And that's number two. Number three is one of the juiciest ones for me. This is fear of judgment. I feel that when we have like actual imposter syndrome, we are afraid of being judged by other people. We're afraid of putting ourselves out there. We're afraid of putting a price tag on what we offer. We're afraid of putting a high price tag on what we offer. We're afraid of branding ourselves in this weird esoteric way. We're afraid of being judged and criticized for something really close to our heart. We're afraid of being judged, kind of. And what I have found is that we project our judgments that we have about ourselves, and we think that that's what other people judge us with. I've seen this with clients, and I've seen this with myself. For example, there's someone who I worked with not too long ago who was doing this, right? He was like, oh, this person has a big following, so they must be inauthentic. This person is selling, and therefore they must not be a good person, right? And I helped him to see that he was just judging. Those are exactly how he was judging himself, which kept him from moving forward. And I've done this too, right? I used to judge a friend of mine who was a business partner. He was like a masculine leader type of a person, a little bit, how do I call it? Not manipulative, but like persuasive and masculine about how he did it. And I judged that, and I was rejecting the part of myself that could be masculine and kind of hold that kind of space, I guess. And as soon as I saw that, I was judging him for that. I realized, oh, I'm judging myself for that. And I was able to accept it. So the remedy on this one of fear of judgment is to realize that whatever you think people are judging you for is just a projection. It's just your imagination, because you don't really know. And it's the same thing that you're judging yourself for. And it's the same thing that you're judging others for. And if you just learn to stop, I feel we judge outward and inward the same. That's what I believe. That's what I have found. We project out and in the same way. And so sometimes it's easier to catch it going outward than it is going inward. We can notice it first. Oh, I'm judging Susie because she's selling super hard in her Facebook group. And actually, I realized I was judging myself because I didn't want to do that. Because, oh, what if other people judge me for that? If they think about me, what I think about her, oh, I wouldn't like that, right? So it's just this triangle that we create in our imagination. It's not actually real. It is a mentally imagined projection that we are doing from our own side. And if we learn how to just accept and forgive ourselves for those things. This happened to me. It's been over a year now, I think, but it happened to me not that long ago, where this person who I met, I was in a mode of my business where I just wasn't selling that much. I wasn't showing up that much. I wasn't doing a lot of sales. I was doing other things. But this person was like, but maybe I needed to be. Maybe I just was neglecting that or something. But this person triggered me. She was like selling every single day and like high energy. And I noticed I got a little triggered, and I realized, that's like, I actually need to do a little bit more of that right now. But I'm judging myself because I don't want people to think about me what I was just thinking about her. And if you just accept yourself for who you are, just love yourself, just forgive yourself, love and forgive and accept others. Easier said than done, but it's the step. Then the very lens that we use to judge and project with is not there. And so we'll find that we don't even think that we're being judged in that way anymore. We don't even imagine it. We also don't care, but we just don't even see it, We're just like, it's just not even appearing because we cleaned the lens. Okay. I hope this is making sense. This one I believe is kind of a deep point, and it's obviously simple, but it's not easy necessarily to practice. But I mean, tell me if you agree. Like, we stop ourselves from taking action due to fear of being judged, right? But I believe this is the formula for this is how I figure out what judgments am I making of myself that are holding me back. And therefore, if I just get rid of those, then I stop judging others and I stop believing that they're judging me in that way. It just clears automatically. There isn't a second step. You just have to love and forgive and accept yourself, and it all disappears. That's my experience. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is the fear of hurting people, actually. We have a fear of hurting people in delivery of our stuff. Now, sometimes that means, I think, Megan, you brought this up the other day. Sometimes it means like literally, what if I misguide them? What if I lead them the wrong way? What if I'm doing energy work and I mess things up with the way I'm doing it? Or I just give someone guidance that teaches them the wrong thing? That's more of a literal way of thinking about it, and that definitely can happen. But there's another way that it can happen, which is when we think about offering services for a certain price, and we think it would be harmful to them if they pay this much, but they only get this much, right? And therefore they're harmed. It's a different way of harming them. What if the price was higher than the value, right? And when we're first starting, I think a lot of us have a little bit limited ideas on what we believe a good price is for value. We think, in the beginning, we think, oh, for $100, I have to do the whole world for them, and they need to be solved, every problem solved for $100. Like, we have ideas like that in the beginning, but as we go, we start realizing that's just our own money expectations that we're projecting, again, on them. We take our own ideas of what we think the value is. The price for this and the value for this has to equal this, and that's our own idea. And it's not like we're necessarily wrong, it's just our own idea. But then we start believing that other people have the same idea, right? And so what one of my mentors said many years ago, or that I heard him say many years ago, was, he's like, I stopped questioning why people invest. He had a $50,000 per year mastermind, and some people would come and just like socialize and not take any action, and they got something from it, even though they didn't take action in their business. And he's like, I stopped questioning it and just realized people get what they get. And myself, I've joined programs that I didn't necessarily get like a physical result from right away, but like there's a mindset shift. There can be an energy, like we don't really know what people are getting. There can be a container that you invite people into, that when they say yes and whatever, like I've gotten like instant shifts from joining someone's program and just having one onboarding call. It's just like, boom, I get the whole program in one day, right? Like, and then maybe I stop coming a month later or something, and they may doubt themselves. They may think, oh, John didn't get the value because he stopped coming, or maybe I already got it. Maybe I already got the value within one day, right? And so we don't really know what people are getting, and we don't really know what their expectations are, or even what money and what value go together. That's all arbitrary. It's actually arbitrary, right? And so we don't have to believe that it's harmful to somebody. I mean, unless your intention is bad. You don't have to believe, like, we don't have to micromanage a student result, right? We can set a container, we can hold space. And that's kind of what I want to talk about with this one, how to overcome this fear of hurting people, both from the side of not knowing what you're doing in delivery, but also from the point of view of maybe the price is higher than the value, which also we perceive as harmful. In either case, I think the solution is to realize that the transformation doesn't come from us. The transformation never comes from us. We are not the transformative agent ever. There's a higher divine force that is a transformational agent, and we're just helping people to take some steps. We might be holding space, we might be facilitating a process, but that is like, and Angie's heard me say this analogy in the past, that's like fingers on a flute. right? I'm sure you've all seen like the image of Krishna playing a flute, right? The fingers on the flute, like the flute isn't going to produce a song, and fingers can't produce a song. Fingers on a flute also never transform into a song. They can only facilitate breath to transform into a song. The breath is the substantial cause of the melody, of the music. The fingers and the flute are just transformation, are just facilitators of the breath becoming music. And in the same way, when you're in a program, you're holding space for people, you have certain intentions, they have certain intentions, you're making certain prayers, and you're inviting them through a certain process. And maybe it's a tried and true process, or maybe it's a new process that you're still figuring out. But either way, you don't have to feel agent. It's just not true. We are, maybe we're the fingers, right? And they're the flute, for example, something like that. There's a modality, there's a process. We're helping to facilitate, but there's a divine force that comes in, and that's what does the transformation. And really, if you think about it, every transformation is a person just becoming more divine. That's all that happens in a transformation, is blockages to union with divinity get dissolved, either through empowering a person to grow their potential to become more divine, or by removing blockages to them becoming more unified with divinity. That's actually the only thing that ever happens in transformation. We call it transformation, but that's what it actually is. And so if you know that, you don't have to feel like you're the one doing all the work. You're holding space and facilitating the work being done, but the pressure is not on you. And that is a good mindset, because it allows us to feel confident to deliver something, even if you're pretty new at delivering it. Even if you're pretty new at delivering it. The other thing that I can mention that I forgot to say in my video I just did, thank you, Heidi, is I believe in the placebo effect. And I know I had a teacher, a meditation teacher once, who she was an Irish nun. And me and my friend had like a little joke where we said like she could read off a cereal box and deliver the same exact blessing of the teaching. She could deliver the same transformation, the same transmission by reading off a cereal box. That's how powerful and channeled she was, right? It's like the faith is there, all the ingredients are there. Like, so if your modality is new or you haven't done it that much, think about it like the cereal box. If you bring the right energy to it, and if the person's holding the right faith, boom, the transformation can happen. And that speaks to another point. Part of our job as a transformational leader is to learn how to inspire faith in our students. Is to learn how to cultivate faith. We want to at least not do anything that harms another person's faith at the minimum, right? But at the maximum, we want to learn how to inspire faith. And in my opinion, experience, this comes through setting a good example. Setting a good example, showing through action, is more admirable usually than the things that we say. Things that we say are good too. Both of those things are kind of how you inspire faith. So if you help to inspire faith in your students, think of it as part of the transformation. It's equally as important as the modality. Like, I've seen Heidi do this when she delivers a group process. She makes sure everyone knows how powerful the process is before they start, because it's part of the transmission, right? It's part of receiving it. It's just believing in it, believing, oh my God, this is powerful. And that's part of how it works. And again, the placebo, if someone's doubting a modality, whether it's a new one or whether you haven't just done it that much or something, think about how a doctor can make a cut in a knee, do no surgery, and a person can heal better than if they got the knee surgery. Like, that's been a proven experiment, right? Someone needs knee surgery. The doctor makes a little cut, sews them back up, does zero surgery. The person thinks they got surgery, and they recover better than people who actually got the surgery. That's true. And there's other examples of placebo effect too. That is powerful. What Tony Robbins said about that is belief is the drug, or belief is the cure. Belief is the thing, right? And so a lot of people, said another way, a lot of people believe that the sale ends when the program starts, but it doesn't. You have to keep selling throughout the whole program, meaning you have to keep inspiring positive belief throughout the whole program. Like I know someone who didn't do that, and her clients all started doubting her after a while, right? They all started thinking, what am I really doing here? Because she was just too vulnerable. She stopped cultivating inspired belief in her clients, and they just lost faith in your program. Forget, right? And so you have to keep it going because it's part of the transformation. We never stop. We never stop selling. We never stop helping people cultivate faith, basically. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5 is that we have big dreams and that it's normal to be nervous or excited sometimes, right? Like that's sometimes imposter syndrome is just feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit excited because we're stepping to a new level. And if the dreams are big, we're stepping to a higher place and it's exciting or it's nervous. I used to teach these meditation classes, which for me at the time felt like very high stakes. It was a center, I was the teacher, I was showing a good example, I was building a relationship over time with the students so that they could get what they needed. You know, I was new in the role, I was trying to do a good job, like I was the main teacher, right? So I had, for me, it felt like big stakes and I was cultivating a whole community. And so what I noticed was many times, especially certain nights, not every single night, but many nights, it was like there was like a high energy task that I was being drawn into. This happens to all of us. There's a high energy task that we're being invited into, and we're almost like a glider. We have to let a divine energy take us and carry us into it so we can energetically meet the task at hand. And this happened to me. This new energy would come into me so I could rise up and energetically meet the task at hand so I could do a good job on that class on that night. And what I found is that if my belief system was, I can do this, then the energy was channeled as like excitement. And if my belief system was, I can't do this, then the energy got channeled as like fear and nervousness. I would get nervous, right? So I think our belief is like a filter. I can do this means the new energy that comes in makes us more excited and we're happy. And if we doubt ourselves or we don't believe in ourselves, it's like a filter that takes that new energy coming in and turns it into like a nervous or fearful energy. And in my opinion, it's important to give ourselves these like high energy tasks to do because we will rise to the occasion. You'll be amazed at how you rise to the occasion automatically if you just give yourself a task that requires high energy, right? For myself, I used to teach meditation classes every week since 2013, for like 3 years. And I put a lot of effort into making the class good. I had a whole week to prepare. But and I would get nervous, I would get excited, I'd get scared, I would think no one's gonna come and I'd feel like a loser, and I'd think it's gonna be a good class, all these things, right? But because I gave myself this high energy task, it made me go through a process and rise to the occasion so that I became a better student and facilitator and teacher over time. And a lot of us don't give ourselves these tasks. And so we sit in this stagnant mode and we never grow. If you like, I used to tell Facebook Lives can solve every problem. Like, if you want to do this, you just give yourself a scheduled Facebook Live once a week and schedule and make yourself do it on that exact time once a week. It gives you a mini stage, and then you have to rise to the occasion. Your mind will find every excuse why you shouldn't do it. But if you actually just do it, you have to go through a process of self-doubt and self-motivation and learning and preparing and meditating and praying and thinking I'm a loser and praying even harder and thinking I'm going to do great, and then blowing it off and realizing it bombs when you think that way. And it's like you go through a whole process, but it turns you into an instrument, turns you into a better channel, turns you into a better leader. And then the next week you schedule another one, you go through the same mess, and over time you become an amazing teacher and facilitator. But without these types of high energy tasks or high stakes, tasks, we stagnate. It's like a channel. Some people get obsessed with healing And in my opinion, if you have a channel, one really good way to clean the channel, think about like a literal concrete channel that has dirt and rocks and mud in it, like a water channel. One good way to clean the channel is just put water through it. It cleans it automatically. If you start channeling and using your channel and helping people with good intentions and trying to channel, you clean your channel. Your channel widens. It's actually not that hard. Like a channel widens when there's more flowing through it. It cleans everything out of it. This is one of the approaches I take, is of course we have to do our own energy work, purification, healing, like all that stuff matters and we need to do it. But also, don't only do that, also put yourself into a state where you get to help people. And the channeling also does a lot for you too. Anyway, that's another point. We're trying to go on number 5, your dreams are big. I think I covered that. Okay, so number 6. Okay, number 6 is where we get into like the secret sauce of it. I covered this in the video that I made earlier. I think Angie saw it. Is about increasing your time value density. If you think about what an expert is, an expert and an imposter are opposites, right? Experts are experts, imposters are inauthentic, they're not there yet. What is an expert? Is someone who has a high value and time density, meaning the amount of value they have and can deliver per unit time is high, right? Someone who's not an expert could take 10 years to teach you something that someone who's an expert could teach you in 5 minutes, right? And if we spend a lot of time ourselves in a focused way, consuming value, receiving value, we become more valuable. And then in a few moments, we can deliver epic transformation. Like I said this in the video I made, like I can deliver transformation sometimes, I think, through body language, through the way I look or blink, right? Through 4 words. And you all can do the same, right? Like through the way you carry yourself, through your energy, you can make a meaningful difference in somebody's life because you have a high value and time density. You've taken the time to add value. And so in very short periods of time, you can deliver higher value than what another person couldn't even do in 20 years, right? Where someone who's not an expert, if they're actually imposter, it means they haven't taken the time to add that much value into their own life, okay? Now, some of us, I feel like I need to pause, so I feel like I'm like losing, I don't know. I'm just gonna take a drink quick. I want to make sure everyone's with me. Okay. So this isn't meant to like be an insult, but like, thank you, Heidi. An imposter is someone who just doesn't have that time value density. And if you realize that you have more of that than your clients, you won't feel like an imposter to them. And that's really all that matters, right? We need to not feel like an imposter to our clients. So whatever is the thing that you're helping them with, if you can deliver, if you have high value per unit time density there, it means they're going to be attracted to you. The reason why I say density is because if you think about metaphysics, like a lot of us think of magnetism as being like the good analogy for attracting clients. But another good analogy is gravity, right? Gravity is, if you think about what gravity actually is, in the fabric of space and time, which is flat, if an object has a high density, other things go to it and they actually funnel around it like a coin in like one of those little funnels. That's my understanding of how gravity works. So that's what I've learned. Okay, maybe I could be wrong, but that's what I've learned. Okay, so like the sun has such a high density that the earth spins around it like a funnel. Actually, and the moon does that to the earth. That's what I've learned, right? And so think about yourself. If we want to get into a state where clients are pursuing you and not the other way around, you want to feel like you have a high density of time per unit value, or value per unit time. and then they come to you. That's another way of thinking about attraction. And for someone who wants to change up their level of expertise, all you have to do is learn how to use your time in a more valuable way. I think that's actually it. If we start using our time in more valuable ways, we will start feeling like an expert on that thing, right? If I want to become an expert at video games, all I have to do is use my time to focus on video games. And then before too long, I become an expert compared to some people. And if I stick with it, I'll become an expert compared to more people. And if I stick with it, I'll become an expert compared to more people. And if you stick with it, you become an expert compared to everybody, right? Now, the thing that magnifies this is focus. This is where some of us get it right and some of us don't. Focus makes a big difference. If you don't focus, you can't really consume the value. It takes you more time to consume value if you're not focused. I've had periods of time in meditation, and some of you probably have too, where like 30 seconds feels like an hour. If you're like deeply absorbed in meditation on retreat or something, a moment can feel like so expanded. 30 seconds could feel like a whole day. Not maybe, not for me, like I haven't gotten there yet, but like literally a minute feels like hours, right? If you're that absorbed, it's because you become so close to the moment that it expands. And that means that you can receive more value per unit time, right? That's what it means. Someone with a scattered mind would take them all day to read one page of a book. Someone with a focused mind could absorb that knowledge within a minute or two, and someone with an average mind would scan it and not really get that much from it because they're not focused, right? In Buddhism, one analogy is like trying to read a spiritual text in a temple at night where there's a draft. Imagine like an old temple with cracks in and there's like a draft, and you have a candle light, and you're trying to read a text, but the candle is flickering. It's hard to make out the words. A lot of us approach life. We approach learning our expertise, learning our modalities. We approach helping people and bettering ourselves and our own practice. We approach it with a very flickering mind. And it means that we're scattered. It means that it takes us a lot longer to receive the same amount of value. Whereas if we're focused and absorbed, we can receive enormous value in very small minutes of time, right? That's kind of what it means. And this is focus. And how do you develop focus? There's a few things. I'll tell you my experience. And I think this is for a lot of people, this question is a big mystery. How do you develop focus? But I can give you a very clear answer. Some of you already have experience of this. Number one, we need faith. We need faith. We need faith in the thing that we're going to be focusing on. So if you want to focus on learning Reiki, you need faith in Reiki. And you need faith in yourself, in your ability to learn Reiki. And you probably need faith in the teacher too. Okay? You might even need faith in your future students' ability to transform with Reiki. Faith will help you to focus. So that's the first one. From faith also comes intentions, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to focus on this. Number two is we need discipline. We need to learn how to stop doing the things other than that, right? This is, in my opinion, discipline is one area where we can afford to be a little bit forceful. Generally, you don't want to be forceful with yourself, you want to be gentle. But when we're trying to practice discipline, you're allowed to be forceful with what you say no to. Right? If I'm trying to sit down to meditate, but my impulse is to grab my phone and look at it, I don't have to be gentle with myself on that. I can be forceful. I can say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I can put myself in the position to meditate. Now, once I start meditating, I want to be gentle with myself and how I approach it. You can't force a meditation to happen, but you can force yourself to not do other things. And you can force yourself to sit down in the first place. You can push yourself to practice, but once you start practicing, you have to stop pushing yourself. It's a little bit interesting. but that's my experience. A lot of us don't have, maybe some of us don't have problems with discipline. A lot of us do. And when it comes to online business, especially, we are literally trying to build a business in a sea of distraction. Social media is a sea of distraction. Even before social media, the internet, computers, feels like a distraction. But we have to learn how to focus. We have to learn the discipline of what we're not going to do. Okay, so this is my permission to you to be forceful with yourself, to tell yourself what you're not going to do, and to get yourself to show up to the thing that you want to do. Discipline gets us there. And then once we're started, we need to be gentle with ourselves in how we coach ourselves through it, but we can still have discipline to stop ourselves from doing other things once we've started. For example, if I go down to write a sales page or build a website or learn more about my modality or create a course, whatever your next task is for a business. In this case, we can say it's focusing on getting better at what you do, maybe, or maybe whatever it is. You decide to focus on that. Once you're doing it, yes, be gentle with yourself, hold space. Creativity can't be forced. You have to just muse it out, muse it out. But if you decide to get interested in what's happening on TikTok, you have to use discipline to stop yourself. Just tell yourself, no, I'm not going to do that. And in order to give ourselves guidelines for discipline, it's helpful to have realistic time windows where you can be more intense with your discipline. For example, if you decide today in the morning or whatever time, I'm going to put in 2 hours on my project and my next, whatever my next thing is that would move me forward, I'm going to do 2 hours. During a 2-hour window, it's very easy to avoid looking at email, looking at your phone, checking social media, taking the dog to the dog park, answering the phone call, watching Netflix. For a 2-hour window, it's easy to say no to all those things. Like your life isn't going to fall apart if you say no for 2 hours. And so you can be strict with yourself because the window is so small. If the window is longer, like my whole life, I can't be as strict. I have to be more loose. My whole life, I can't make the commitment. I'm not going to look at my phone. I just can't do that. But I can do it for 1 hour. I can do it for 2 hours. I can do it for a weekend, maybe. Does that make sense? So if you're trying to improve your discipline, which helps your focus, give yourself short windows and then be intense. You can be very strict with yourself during those small windows. But then when the window's over, loosen up. Let it go. That's another discipline that I've learned. Once the time is up, don't dwell on it. I know you're not done yet. Just move on. And then set another time window later. You don't have to keep it open forever. You can, but that level of energy isn't as sustainable. You can choose if you want to do it. I've done it and I've done both. You can decide. But if you're trying to cultivate the habit of discipline, it's helpful to give yourself a break when the time limit is up, because then you'll feel more ready to be intense with your discipline the next time that you have a window, right? If you allow the ending to be there and you abide by the ending, it's easier to hold yourself accountable during the window itself too. But if you keep the window going forever, you're going to start resenting that level of discipline and structure, and you may decide to not use it anymore, right? So honoring endings is sometimes part of loving the structure when it's there. That's my experience. Okay, so that's number 6. Oh, I was talking about how to develop focus, faith, discipline, and then enjoyment. Just enjoying the process. Decide, I'm not here to build a sales page. I'm here to enjoy building the sales page. I'm not here to write an email. I'm here to enjoy writing the email. I'm not here to meditate. I'm here to enjoy meditation. I'm not here to build my online course. I'm here to enjoy building my online course. My teacher reminded us of this again and again. Enjoyment is one of the secret keys to focus. You can imagine a community of meditators and monks and nuns and people who are devoted to meditation all living together, meditating together, like you can imagine us feeling very interested in developing focus. And you realize that it's actually not that easy. And so like I'm telling you right now, what I've just shared are like secret keys. You're not going to hear this somewhere else necessarily. This is like actually what works. Faith, discipline, and then enjoy. Once you start the activity, decide that you're going to enjoy it. Because when you enjoy it, you engage with the process exactly the right amount. You're not too tight, and it squeezes the creativity out of it. And it makes it rigid and dull and lifeless. And you're not too loose where you get bored with it. Focus is very much a process of tuning yourself like an instrument string. Not too tight, not too loose. That's what really focus is. Too tight is wrong, is the wrong chord. Too loose is the wrong chord. You want to be just right, just in the middle. And enjoyment is one of the main keys to getting the not too tight, not too loose thing right. Because when you enjoy something, you engage with it perfectly, like a child at play. When a child is playing a game, they're not disengaging and getting bored. They're perfectly engaged, but they're not too tight. They're not developing headaches and stress about it either. They just love it. And they're so close. You can't even separate them from their activity. The floor is lava and don't touch the floor and blah, 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 whatever the game is. They're so in it. That is the analogy that we need. Whatever we're trying to focus on, enjoy it like you're a child at play. It'll engage you perfectly with the activity, and focus is easy from that place. The only other key besides those things to focus is learning to not break your attention. Trying to not break your attention span. If it breaks, you have to start all over. A good analogy for focus is like a camera that has automatic focus. Like remember like cameras before the iPhone where like you'd aim it at something and the camera lens would like automatically focus on something, and you'd see like part of it becomes blurry and part of it gets in focus. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You have to hold the thing in the frame still for that to happen, but then it happens automatically. Focus is a little bit like that. If you hold yourself engaged with the thing and you don't move and you stay holding it, focus just comes. So if you stick with something, focus just comes. If you break your attention by checking, I'll tell you this, turn off your notifications on your stuff. Turn off your notifications because it puts you in a reactionary mode. If you develop a reaction state to your phone, it's like becoming fight or flight with your phone. How are you going to focus on your phone if you get into a trauma response with your phone? There's an old book called The Ultimate Sales Machine, which is like one of the best business books of all time. And he goes into detail about that. Like, you have to be proactive in your life and not reactive. And if you check notifications and messages and stuff, it breaks your focus, and it takes a long time to get back into a focused state. They've actually found it can take up to 25 minutes to get back into a focused flow if you break your focus. Think about it like that. You're trying to get something done. Maybe it's in the morning time, you have 2 hours set aside and you're focused on it and you're getting high quality work done because it's deep focus. And then you check your email because a pop-up comes up and now your focus is gone. And it might take you 25 minutes to get back in. Most people, all they ever do is break their focus and they never even know what it's like to find the focus flow. And then they never actually get to enjoy producing high quality work. And then they never believe in themselves or what they create. One of the main ways that we can believe in ourselves and what we produce is focusing while we're doing it. If you focus really well while you're doing something, you're going to feel confident once it's done. And if you're scattered while you do it, you're going to feel less than confident, even if you finish it somehow, which you probably won't finish it. Focus is so key. In order to focus, you need faith, discipline, enjoyment, and the ability to hold your attention span on a thing for as long as you wish. without breaking it. And this comes with practice, and focus will automatically come if you do those things. Okay, so that was number 6. Number 7 is that we just have to put ourselves around people who need our help. This is one of my favorite ones. If you, and we all do, have special things happening inside of you, special qualities, expertise, if you it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget how special we are. But if you put yourself around people who need your help, on purpose, or if you just find yourself around people who need your help and you talk to them, and then you'll start to perceive a need. You'll start to realize that they do need help. And then you'll develop compassion for them. And if you develop compassion for them, you're not going to care that you're not perfect anymore. You're just going to help them. Okay? This is one of my favorite ones. I'll tell you a quick story. After I stepped away from being a monk, I had to go through like a 1-year probationary period where I wasn't allowed to engage with my spiritual community. It was a very, very sad year actually for me. Very sad. Because I had drawn so much benefit from my spiritual community, and I just wasn't allowed to be around them for a full year. And this was 2019. And I moved to an area where I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me. It wasn't a very spiritual area. And nobody saw my good qualities, but I was used to people seeing me literally dressed in robes. So like my spiritual community, who were faithful people, saw me. They're used to seeing good qualities in others, but like I was dressed like a monk. And so they saw me, even like I had lots of reminders about my good qualities, and it helped to bring them out. And then I put myself around people who didn't see my good qualities. And I started to forget that I had them. This is after 4.5 years of being a monk. I started to forget that I had good qualities. And all I needed to do was start helping people, and I remembered. But what happened to me, I feel like the benefit that we have inside of us is like the potential energy of a storm cloud, the potential energy of like a thunder cloud. Say lightning strikes from the ground up. There's something in the receiver that initiates the energy being called out of the cloud, in my opinion. The ground calls the energy out of the cloud. And that's how lightning is, it kind of comes from the ground up, right? There's a relationship between the ground and the cloud. And for me, what I found is just being around people who I talked to, who like I could see needed me, it just brought out something good. And then I felt the power come through. I was like, oh yeah, I've got some power here. And it made me feel good. And it made me remember, oh yeah, I can do good things. And then later I had a successful launch that year. That was my first successful launch as a spiritual coach, actually. Anyway, I hope that analogy makes sense. I know I've been talking forever. Sorry to be boring, but the other side of that coin is the compassion side. So if you love somebody and you see that they need help, compassion automatically comes. And if you have compassion for somebody, you don't care that you're not perfect. When I was very new to teaching meditation classes, I was not even a good meditator at the time. I really was very mildly decent at meditating at the best. But I really wanted to be good. And my teacher said, like, the way to get good is to practice, to just practice. And he's like, yeah. And people in a certain town needed a class. I knew I wasn't perfect, but they needed help. I didn't even care that I wasn't perfect. I was just like, I'm going to go help them because somebody's got to do it. I'll just do it. Right. And when you realize that certain people are called to receive this kind of help that you provide, and you know that you're not perfect, you're not going to care because you're like, somebody's got to do it. I'll just do it. They need help. And you just start doing it regardless of whether you're perfect or not. Okay. So that's compassion. The shortcut to that is just put yourself around people who need your help and start talking to them and listening to them, and you will start realizing that they need your help. And then your compassion comes out. Just try to help them. That's number 7. And then the last one is just action. take action, because even if you are an imposter, imagine that you are an imposter. How are you even going to know what you're not good at unless you try, right? If you try to help people, you take action, you'll start realizing all the areas where you're not that good, and then you'll get to fix them. And you'll start realizing all the areas where you are good, and you can believe in those. And over time, you become good. There's no other way to do it other than feedback. So just go take some action. Anyway, those are the 8 points. Hopefully that's helpful. I'd love to hear some feedback on what resonated with you. Thank you for listening.